Welcome to Making the Grade with Dr. Wagner. Today we're actually going to go to Brooklyn. We're going to go to the Mark Morris Dance Studio. We're going to meet David Leventhal. He is one of the instructors for Dancing for PD, Dancing for Parkinson's disease. It was a very special day, and it was active that day. David was very busy as always, but he did give us time for an interview. So what we're going to do is we're going to meet David first. We're going to hear about his highly successful career as a dancer, and then we'll be right back. So, enjoy the dance.
So, if John arrives.
Hello everybody. Hello everybody at home, wherever you are. On the beach, in an airplane, in a hotel, here at the Mark Morris Dance Center in Brooklyn. We are thrilled to be dancing with you. Here we go, reaching as high as you can. Think about moving into the space that we just talked about. Good, going back up and moving back into that space that we watched earlier. I started dancing in the early 80s when I was about 8 years old. I grew up in the Boston area, and I started with a creative movement class for boys at Boston Ballet School, and continued my training there all the way through high school. I decided somewhere in the middle of high school that I was never going to be a professional dancer, and I decided to apply to colleges, and I started my freshman year at Brown University and discovered that there was no ballet offered, and ballet was what I had studied my whole life. So I thought I would investigate this thing called modern dance, and I walked by the studio. I think it was the first week of school, and I went in and I took a modern class, and I thought, what have I been missing all these years? This is fantastic. So I started taking modern dance for the first time really in my late teens. I was 18, and started to explore a completely different movement vocabulary, way of thinking about the body.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, at Brown, there was no dance major, and I was very interested in the academic side of my interest as well. So I majored in English literature with a focus on early modern drama, so Shakespeare and Johnson, people like that, and focused very much on my academic interest and sort of danced intensively, but as an extracurricular activity. My senior year of college, I decided I would try to move to New York and try to get a job dancing. I didn't really know how that was going to work, but I thought I'd give it a try, give it a college try, so to speak. And I moved to New York in January of 1996. The day after I moved, there was a gigantic blizzard. I was on my way to take my first professional level dance class in New York, having just arrived, and I was the only person who showed up at the studio. And the studio manager said, "What are you doing here? It's a blizzard." I said, "I've come to take class." And so they gave me a free class card to come back another time. And I think really that was a model for me that, you know, I wasn't sure how things were going to work out in New York, but if I gave it my best shot, if I tried against all odds, something would happen. And so over the next year or so, I started to do some freelance work. I auditioned for several projects. I started working with some choreographers that I really liked. And these were pickup groups, so we would go in, we'd do rehearsals for a couple months, do a show, and then I wouldn't see them for, half a year. And I did a number of those projects. I also temped. I did office work during the day to try to pay the bills. In 2010, I was very honored to receive a New York Dance and Performance Award, which is also nicknamed the Bessie Award, for sustained achievement in Mark Morris's work. This was a complete surprise, and actually this ties into my Dance for PD work, because it was at that point the Bessie Award was a secret, so nobody knew that night. It's very much like the Academy Awards. You didn't know whether you were going to win. You didn't even know that you were nominated. So I was brought to the award ceremony under the pretext that we were receiving a special notice or a special award for the Dance for PD program. And I had written a speech because at this point, 2010, I was just on the cusp of transitioning out of a full-time performing career into a full-time Dance for PD teaching and administration career. And so I was very much in the Dance for PD world. It was John and my baby, and along with Ole Westheimer, who was the visionary behind the program. And I was excited about sort of expanding what we'd started in Brooklyn. So I had a whole speech about Dance for PD and how grateful we were to receive this award in honor of the program. When I started listening to the citation for this award, I realized that the award was actually for me and for my dancing, and I was flabbergasted. And I was of course I prepared a statement that had nothing to do with what I was actually receiving the award for, which was for 15 years of being on stage and for having the honor of interpreting and dancing Mark's repertory. So I was just very humbled by this. I think the whole idea of kind of receiving something towards the end of one's career is really is important. I think it's different to receive a Bessie sort of in the middle or at the beginning, because I think there's a danger as a performer of believing your own hype. And one of the things I always tried to do as a performer was to bring spontaneity and a lack of elitism to my dancing. That dancing is a service. It's an honor. It's deeply humbling. I am in the service of a choreographer. I'm in the service of an audience. I see a lot of young dancers coming to New York, and they have a very set idea of what they want to achieve. And I think the most important message I can give is to find work that you love doing. That is far more important than setting out a goal of being in a company or being in this particular show, because the dance world is so much about chance and about who you know. And yes, there is a lot of talent involved and a lot of training involved, and those things are important. But if you're only focusing on that end goal of getting into this company or getting into that show, you're inevitably going to be disappointed, because life takes different trajectories and different paths, and we don't always have control over that. What we do have control over is choosing things that we love and being involved in work and in communities that mean something to us. So when you're thinking about what you want to be involved in, go with your heart, go with the work that you want to do, because dancing is too hard a job to be involved in a part of it that feels like a job. So it needs to feel like your passion. It needs to feel like this is your life.
Yeah, I can agree more. I think that's very good advice. When you like what you do it better. When you're passionate about what you do, it's not really work. So, as we all know, I work with the disabled population. I think they are the coolest, hippest people on planet Earth. I love my job. I wouldn't give it up for anything. However, whether you're disabled or not, you have a choice when you go to college or when you embark on a career to make a decision. So make it wisely. Know your passion, know who you are, pick a career that you like, and you will thrive and you'll be very, very successful. So we do want to thank David for that little bit of advice. Very simple words, but yet very, very profound words. Okay, you know what? Now let's go back to the Mark Morris Dance Studio and hear how David got involved for Dancing for PD.
So I got involved in the Dance for PD program completely by accident, sort of by accident. I was already doing a lot of teaching as part of my work in the company. I would rehearse and perform, but also when we went out on the road, I would do a lot of the community classes that were part of the performance residency wherever we were. In 2001, we opened this dance center here in Brooklyn, and we let it be known that this was a community center. It really was a place for different members of the community to come and experience the joys of dance and music. One of the people who heard that message was a woman named Ole Westheimer, and Ole was the founder and executive director of the Brooklyn Parkinson Group. And Ole had this hunch for a while that one of the things that might be really beneficial for her, the support group that she led, was a dance class. Oli had a dance background. She thought a lot about what dancers did in their training. And she thought about the wonderful social environment that gets created in any kind of dance class, where people are connecting, they're looking at each other, they're dancing together. And so when she read about the opening of the Dance Center, she called a meeting with our executive director and pitched this idea of a dance class for people with Parkinson's. And our executive director, Nancy Umanoff, said, we would love to do it, and I have the perfect teacher, and his name is John Heginbotham. So John, who is one of our founding teachers, was scheduled to do the first class, but had a family emergency and had to leave town in that first class. And they said, well, we have somebody else, David, who's a very experienced teacher, and David will be subbing for John. So I actually ended up being dropped into the very first dance for PD class completely by accident, and an hour and 15 minutes later realized that I had probably the most enjoyable teaching experience I'd ever had. And with some of the best students I'd ever had. What I mean by best students is they were completely engaged, they were curious, they loved the experience of dancing. Many of them, most of them were beginners, they'd never danced before. And the thrill of seeing their eyes light up with this experience that they'd never had before was enough to carry me through not only that first class, but the first year of programs all the way through now, in fact. And it's one reason I'm still involved both as a teacher and an administrator in the program.
Okay.
When Oli came to us with this idea and presented this program, she really wanted it to be an arts-based program. She didn't want it to address symptoms head-on. She didn't want it to be a therapy program. She wanted it to be an artistic dance class, artistic experience for those participants. What that meant was that we focused on dance making, we focused on choreography, we focused on integrating live music, we focused on things like movement quality. How do we create different qualities, different dynamics with our bodies? We focused on telling stories through dance. We focused on Mark Morris repertory. We gave our participants a chance to learn Mark's work and to do it on their own choreographers. And all of that, I think, creates a very compelling argument for the value of creative and artistic endeavors for people with Parkinson's and other people with chronic disease. That it's not just about the therapy, it's not just about getting your body moving, which you might do in a traditional exercise intervention, but it's about thinking differently about movements we do every day. And as an artistic framework, as an artist, we think differently about movement all the time. We're constantly thinking about how are we controlling it, how are we changing quality, what story are we trying to tell, what expression are we trying to do. Particularly with Parkinson's, which I often think of as an anti-theatrical condition, where the expressive capability of individuals is often challenged. Dance gives people a chance to express, to build a toolkit back into their bodies of being able to speak with their bodies, being able to use their face and their voice for full expressive means. And I think it's very important. The other thing is being able to, when people are living with a chronic condition, often they enter a state of sort of permanent patientdom where they themselves and their families and the communities around them think of themselves as patients all the time. Oh, you're a Parkinson's patient. I hear people refer to themselves as, oh, I'm a Parkinson's patient, even when they're outside of a medical clinic. This is interesting to me because I think dance reframes that identity around being an artist, being a student, being a lifelong learner. So people who come here to take class, they know they have Parkinson's, but they are here not because they're patients, but because they're dancers. And that, I think, one of the things we found second or third year of teaching this class was how important the social factor was to creating a positive class experience. So, we were thinking that people came for the wonderful music and for the incredible dance movements that we brought in, and that was true to some degree. But what we found was that dance had this amazing power to bring people together, to connect them, to bond them, and together into social networks that were a little bit more difficult to build outside of the dance class. I think we've all experienced, if you've ever participated in community theater or a chorus or a dance class, you know that there's a special kind of relationship that gets built in those experiences. You're participating in something meaningful and artistic together, and you become close friends because of that. And that's exactly what happens in the Dance for PD experience, is that everybody is united in the dancing experience, and that creates very strong social bonds. I think as well, there's a sense of unity that happens in the class, that everybody is there for the same reason. They are all going through something similar together, even though Parkinson's manifests itself in many different ways. They all kind of understand what everybody else is going through, and that also creates a very tight-knit community.
Thanks, David. And you know what? Listen, I was so lucky that I got to spend the entire day at the Mark Morris Dance Studio, seeing these dancers and seeing the camaraderie, the socialization factor that David just spoke of. It was quite special. I was also lucky that I got a group interview. And I got a group interview with 4 of the dancers as well as another instructor. So we want to share that with you now. So let's go back to the studio and enjoy.
And I have to say, capturing Grace, you know, just about to happen.
Well, I'll know these things and welcome first.
I am a founding teacher of dance for PD, and I did it very extensively for a number of years, and I do it less extensively now, but it's always a joy and pleasure to come back and work with all of the dancers. If you're dancing, you're alive, you know, in a way that is your best self, oftentimes. So I think that's what happens. I think that's the beauty, is that you get a chance to move in beautiful ways with a lot of people who are also enjoying what you're doing by watching you, and who are dancing themselves.
Yes, very much so, and that's what keeps the class going, with so many people showing up each time, because of this sense of community. I find that looking around the room at the fellow counselors in this area, they all seem to care a lot. And when I went to see them, observe them teaching, they all had a sense of community and enjoyment, and not evaluative watching of the people dance. I have a motto in my classes that I teach, and it's nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. And I find that sums up the story of what we're all about, and it's very mind-boggling and rewarding.
Well, I think it's like having music come into my body and having to listen and move. So when I watch dance, I feel like my body moves along with people who are dancing, and it's actually introduced me to music. So now music is also a part of my life, and it helps me with my Parkinson's, but also with just relaxing and enjoying art in life. Because when we try things that are hard, I think we have to change our whole way of dealing with life. So I like it when John makes us just do something with the other side of our body, and I can't use my mind to get around it, but I know that if I keep trying, I would be able to do it. So it motivates me to try new things.
Carr and Mark Morrison, I was trying to figure out what is dance here at Mark Morrison. I thought dance is the oxygen we live on. And, you know, I was thinking that Mark Morris is about movement and spirit and being, you know, like we're all together. You're part of a group, and the dancing is not baby dancing. It's real dancing with great teachers. So it's not like you go into a class and you're sort of pandered to. You're expected to get it together and get your arm up there and move your tush, you know. So I think it's great, and I think it's great to. It's like students when they put them in the dumb class, they're dumb. When they put them in the smart class, they're smart. So we're smart.
I come to, I'm
Yes.
Charlie's wife, and I come to class.
Lucky Charlie.
And I don't have to come to class. I mean, I don't have. I come to class because I have to bring Charlie, but I wouldn't not come. I think I enjoy it as much or more than anybody who is participating with Parkinson's disease. And I've made many friends in this class with Parkinson's, without Parkinson's, the teachers, the assistants, everybody. It is such a sense of community here. I think that is the most vital thing here. Charlie looks forward to it. He's already ruing that there's going to be no class in August because it's very important to his week to come here, participate in the dance class, get to socialize with everybody here. It's an incredible thing.
That we have to overcome a movement disorder, and the irony of it is that we do that by learning how to dance, which is the epitome of movement. So this is how we overcome this adversity that is part of our condition. And that's universal for everyone, whatever adversity you have to overcome. We started, I hate the word journey, but we started our journey asking the question, what is the matter with us? But as we progress over the years, we learn to focus on what matters to us. And for that reason, we try to take advantage of some of the programs which really enrich our lives. And in my case, it has transformed me in that.
Our hope, of course, is that by realizing the powers of concentration they still have in the dance class, that they're able to put that into their toolkit, take it outside the studio, and apply that same focus and concentration to other things that they do in their daily lives. So the dance is not only a wonderful, fun, social, educational, stimulating environment for that hour and a quarter, but it's also a lab, a toolkit, if you will, for the other 167 hours they spend outside of the studio each week. And we have heard people coming back to us and saying, you know, I used that tap step to get out of bed. I was able to focus, use the step, and it helped launch me out. Or I was able to get my way to the checkout counter when I felt like I was freezing because I thought of that trajectory as a dance rather than simply as a walk. So people really do use these tools, but they all center around this idea of concentration and focus. Born dancing, we all have this gift. It is one of the core elements of what it is to be human. You know, the ability to dance, the ability to understand music through the body. And so I'm deeply committed through my work here and through other avenues to remind people that dancing is everyone's right, that we all have the right to access enjoyable, high-quality dance experiences wherever we are, and that those experiences can transform our lives. But I think that identity as an artist, as a dancer, in many ways offsets the identity that Parkinson's often constructs for them, or that the medical world constructs for them. This is an identity they construct themselves. They have agency over creating that identity. They can decide who they want to be. They can decide to be a creative individual. They can decide to be an interpretive individual. They can decide to be a dance student. But all of that is, in my view, a positive revision of what was formerly a sort of patient or chronic disease identity story. And the people who come to this dance class rewrite their own story with themselves as creative, artistic individuals who happen to use dance as their medium.
You know, that sums it up. I also would just like to say thank you to the administration. I mean, obviously, thank you, David. Thank you, John. Thank you, students. You guys are great. And we also then will leave you with a little bit more of that great class that I was very, very lucky enough to sit in on. All right, guys, that's it for this show. See you soon. And until next time, be well, be good, and we are here for you. Take care.
Well,
We have a lot of different ways to get involved. You can come as a participant to the classes. We have volunteer training programs as well as teacher and enrichment training opportunities. Care partners are welcome to join us as well. And we have a teacher training apprentice program. So they would usually visit our website or give us a call. The website is www.danceforparkinsons.org. And we have an 800 number, 800-957-1046.